I am Kane, and I have analyzed the book Final Fantasy Type 0. The creative team consists of Hiroki Chiba, uh, who has written games for Square Enix, such as World of Final Fantasy and Final Fantasy VII Dirge of Cerberus. The art is drawn by Takatoshi Shiozawa, who has drawn this manga and Final Fantasy Type 0's other manga, which is called The Ice Reaper. And then the character design specifically is done by Tetsuya Nomura. All of these people are within Square Enix, I believe, and that is exactly who published this book. The length is 196 pages. It is a manga, and Act 1 runs all the way to page 128. Act 2 runs all the way to page 192, and then it all wraps up with Act 3 uh, to the end at 196. This doesn't really fit our format, and instead, like manga, has an incredibly long Act 1, which takes up about half, maybe even a little bit over half of the book. This is the story of Class Zero, a class of 13 elite military cadets for the Dominion of Rubrum. Their goal is to follow orders as necessary and protect Rubrum from the Milites Empire's invasions. Act 2 does support this goal. The story begins by revealing who our characters are. Class Zero. They're a bunch of kids who knew each other as children, seeing as they were brought up by the same adoptive mother. There's about 11 of them, and then there are two transfer students, Machina and Rem, and they were from the same village which got destroyed by Milites in an invasion, and so they transferred into the class. This whole first act is pretty much just telling us a little bit about them, some interesting tidbits of lore, such as how anybody from Rubrum loses memories of people who die, and this is so that they don't lose morale in war, pretty much. Um, Also, a lot about the war situation between Rubrum and Milites. Essentially, how Rubrum is magic, Milites is technology, and it also does some stuff such as showing us that Milites had bombed another country called Lorica with what was essentially a nuke, just to really solidify. Hey, these are the bad guys, and now they're coming for us, so you better be ready for them. The middle of the story is when Class Zero is deployed to assist in the defense of the town Mictai, which is being attacked by Milites. Little did they know, Milites was actually looking for this encounter because they planned to use an experimental anti-magic barrier technology to jam Class Zero's magic capabilities. The resolution is when they overcome this anti magic barrier with the assistance and sacrifice of other soldiers, and then they are able to drive out Milites. It ends with Class Zero's adoptive mother questioning how far they'll make it this time, and this leaves it open ended to coerce people into playing the game, but for people who don't end up playing it, it can be really confusing because there's a lot of questions associated with that, such as, what she's referring to. The characters don't arc not only because this manga isn't technically standalone, it's a supplemental prequel of the game Type Zero, but because there's just way too many characters for arcs to feasibly occur, especially in such a small and finite amount of time. There isn't a main character as much as Class Zero as a whole unit. Each character has a distinct set personality that doesn't really arc, because the arc lies in the entirety of Class Zero and what they do. The art has directional flow, sure. I don't really know what to say about it other than it just really looks like a typical manga. Sometimes it is a bit busy, and I think that's because the story concept as a whole is incredibly ambitious. I'd also not really agree with the idea that it is a page as a mini comic. I wouldn't really recommend this to my classmates unless they have an interest in the Final Fantasy games or Final Fantasy Type Zero specifically. Uh, Not only because this book is essentially just promotional material for the game, but because it has an intimidating amount of information that just kind of dumps on you and expects you to roll with. And also, it's bold of you to assume that I have friends, but just like with my classmates, I'd recommend it only if they have interest in Final Fantasy. As for a fun fact, the manga took 4 months to make, just about, and the writer was really pushing the limits with the deadlines because he's supposedly not too experienced with this kind of writing. So, yeah, that's it. That's all I've got.